No mai, haere mai, and welcome to Lights, Camera, Kōrero. I'm Mike McRoberts, and today I'm joined by New Zealand Film Commission Chief Executive Annie Murray. Well, Annie, you've just returned from overseas, Mumbai, London, the Cannes film market, on what the NZFC has described as a global trade mission. Can you explain what that means?
The Global Trade Mission is where we connect New Zealand filmmakers with the international market. So we connect New Zealanders with financiers, sales agents, distributors that they can work with to bring their films to life. And it's also where we connect them with other producers for the purposes of co-production. So that's working a story up through two markets.
Often at these places you get to have a little bit of a peek into the future too, don't you? Did you see any emerging trends?
Definitely. So co-production is something everybody's talking about. It's nothing new, but it's becoming far more important with the global conditions that we're facing.
And we're pretty good at that too, aren't we?
We're really good at that, yeah. We've got co-production treaties or arrangements with 18 countries around the world. And the advantage of that is that it brings together audiences in two markets, the resources of two countries or more, sometimes three or more countries, rebates from both places and finance. So it's a really good way to upscale your film in a way that combines resources with other markets.
And of course, the cream of the crop from around the world were there. Was there much talk about that drama that is going on in the United States at the moment with Trump's tariffs and, well, the tariff that is going to be on all films and productions outside of the US?
Yeah, there was a lot of talk about it, but it was a pretty short conversation because there's very little detail still. You know, we're a month or so on from that, and there has been no detail put to the policy. So we're just treating it as business as usual and getting on with it.
So your global trade mission started in India. Why Mumbai and why now?
So Mumbai was hosting a massive convention for film and television, and we were invited to that. So we took a lot of meetings in a few days, and those were focused on two things, co-production, which I just mentioned, but also inbound production. So that's the big international productions coming into New Zealand, generating jobs, spending a lot of money. Yeah. So there's both opportunities there in that market.
Well, of course, the Prime Minister was over there recently, so were you piggybacking off the back of that maybe?
Yeah, we were following up on the Prime Minister's trade delegation to India. There's a lot of interest in New Zealand and India, and that the Prime Minister's visit really ignited that. We were looking to two things, one being co-production with the Indian market through our co-production treaty, which has only been used once, and the other thing was inbound production, which is bringing in big international productions, the likes of which we've seen from Hollywood a lot in recent years, but looking to Bollywood and Tollywood also for inbound production.
Wow, so that we could actually see some of those here in Aotearoa.
Absolutely, and there used to be quite a few, including a big film which went out in the year 2000 and was seen by about 500 million Indian viewers. It was filmed largely in Canterbury and Southland, so really beautiful tourism area for New Zealand. It also led to a spike in inbound tourism from India and an increase in the number of Indian foreign students coming in to study here in New Zealand. So the spillover effects of film are really, really great for the New Zealand economy.
We like that.
We do.
Well, after India, you headed to London, and we know the UK is one of New Zealand's key treaty partners. So what was the objective of that trip?
So that was about strengthening and deepening key relationships that we have in the UK. We hosted a couple of really important events there. We were taking a delegation through to the Cannes film market. So this first stop there was in London, where we connected New Zealand filmmakers with our counterparts in the UK to work up ideas for co-production. So there's that concept again. But we also hosted a really special reception at the High Commission, which was for both our travelling producers, but also for key New Zealanders working in the screen industry at a high level in London. So these are people at the top of their game who are able to open doors, who can create opportunities for New Zealanders that are very difficult to achieve just from New Zealand.
And I'm sure they would have loved to have seen a few Kiwis as well.
Yeah, they did.
It can get a bit lonely over there, can't it?
Oh, and we showed them a trailer of Tinā, and it made a whole lot of them cry. So, they're still very connected to New Zealand.
I love it. Well, the NZFC delegation then went to the Cannes film market. So How's that event different from the Cannes Film Festival?
So the market is the world's top marketplace for distribution and co-production in film. It's huge and it sits behind the festival. So this is not about premieres and red carpets. This is about the work that goes on to put films together and make New Zealand stories possible. The Film Commission has been working for decades to build really meaningful partnerships right across the world, both with our sister agencies, but also with the key business people who can get films to happen. And so that market is where we connect our producers, and there were about 30 in the market, connect them with those business people, those distributors, sales agents, financiers who can bring their films to life.
So it's kind of the business behind the glitz
Absolutely.
and the glamour, right?
Yes. The glitz and the glamour goes on down at the end of the street. We don't even know who's there or what they're wearing or what they're doing. We read about it in the papers the same as everyone else.
Well, before we chat about the business end of the Cannes film market, congratulations on the NZFC being nominated for Film Commission of the Year at the Global Production Awards.
Yeah, that was super exciting and I would say, but I think really well deserved. It recognises the
you can say that.
the really hard work, and I'm really proud of the team for us receiving that nomination. But I have to mention also nominations for these Global Production Awards, which are quite a big deal. Nominations we had for Screen Canterbury, for GFC Films here in Auckland, for Craig Gainsborough and Greenlit, and for the Māoriland Charitable Trust. And both Craig for Greenlit and Māoriland Charitable Trust won very major awards, so huge congratulations to them.
Wow. What does that mean for them?
Actually, it's massive for their profile internationally, and it also acknowledges the incredible hard work. I mean, these are both Greenlit and Māoriland are key strategic partners for the Film Commission and for the screen sector generally here in New Zealand. They're doing really transformational work both on sustainability and on uplifting Indigenous stories. And Māoriland runs the biggest Indigenous film festival in the world, so it's really great to see them all acknowledged in the Global Production Awards.
And it shows us as a nation very well too, doesn't it?
Very, very well. And it does wonders for our profile, also for our soft power internationally, which is something that film contributes to enormously for New Zealand. So, yeah, a really, really big, two big wins there.
Brilliant. So these strategic missions, they're not just about quick returns, are they? They're about that sustained, deeply developed relationship that you build. I guess you'd call it the long game?
Absolutely, the long game, yeah. There are some who ask every time we travel, what's the return on investment? And it's not an overnight thing. You know, we can point to returns on markets from previous years, but we can't report right now on returns from the markets we've just come from. So in previous years, there have been deals done for films like The Lie, which has done incredibly well on Netflix recently. The Marlon Williams documentary made key partnerships there. Evil Dead Rise, which is a massive co-production between Ireland and New Zealand, which was the biggest co-production in terms of its box office, $147 million US. And there's more to come in that franchise. So, you know, these are the kinds of things that build up over years through partnerships that are formed in these markets.
And Annie, when you see around the world that the global commissioning is slowing down a bit or has contracted, how important are these relationships?
These relationships are crucial. And when you consider that a New Zealand film can raise around about half of its budget at best out of the New Zealand market, it's crucial that we are out there supporting New Zealand filmmakers to get their stories made. Film is not a cheap business, you know, it is an expensive business to be in, so we have to help them to stitch together a patchwork of finance and then to use those international relationships to get the film out to audiences. So attendance in these markets can make the difference between New Zealand stories being told and big international productions coming into New Zealand or not.
We've seen a few of those just recently, which has been fantastic. But what does the reduction in global commissioning mean for inbound productions in New Zealand, and how are you mitigating this drop?
So what we're seeing is about a 40% drop
Wow.
in commissioning on new content, and I'm talking about film and TV here. So a 40% drop worldwide. So it's not just affecting New Zealand, it's affecting the whole world. that means that the competition for those big international inbound productions is much more fierce. The pie has got smaller. Our rebate could not be more important now.
Yeah.
This hasn't happened overnight, though. This has been a trend that has been coming, that we've been monitoring closely. So our trade mission is one part of a strategy to increase investment through that international engagement and to get our people out to the world to make sure that our stories can be told and those international productions will continue to come in.
Well, we are small, but how do we stack up against some of our global competitors?
Well, how attractive are we as a co-production partner is probably part of that question. We are seen to be a creative powerhouse internationally, and we only need to look at some of those household names that we have here: Peter Jackson, Jane Campion, Jim Cameron, Richard Taylor. The incredible Taika Waititi, all committed to telling stories from New Zealand and of New Zealand. So that makes us an incredibly attractive partner internationally. We've got a solid rebate. It's around the middle of the pack, it's not a world-leading rebate. But when you consider that package that we bring, yes, we bring a rebate. We also bring an exchange rate that is attractive for, incoming production. We have an incredibly skilled crew, Academy Award-winning crew, and we have stunning locations and, a landscape that you can't find anywhere else. So when you combine all of those things, that makes us a very good partner. But what we did see, particularly in Cannes at the market, was other territories really upping their rebate. So if you look just across the ditch to Australia, they have moved to a 30% across the board from a lower rate to 30%, and we are sitting at 20% plus 5. So, they are 30% plus you add on state rebates on top of that. So there's the federal and then the state. So, it is hard to compete with that. That's why we have to talk about that package that we offer.
Yeah, because the government's also announced recently, hasn't it, that it's ongoing support for the international screen production rebate. So I guess that is good. It's still there. And those relationships that you were talking about, even more important.
Yeah. So, what that commitment from the government shows is that they value the $3.5 billion contribution that the screen sector makes to the New Zealand economy. Having security and, confidence that rebate is there is essential. Businesses need certainty, and the film business is no different. We work really closely with two key ministers, Nicola Willis on finance and economic growth side, and Minister Goldsmith through the Ministry of Culture and Heritage. So what our job is to do is to present the opportunities and challenges of our sector to those ministers to make sure that they understand where we're at as a sector and where we can go. It's not that sort of a decision to commit to the rebate for the next 4 years. It's not a spontaneous decision, and what it is it reflects a really long-term commitment to this sector that goes back 20 years. So what we're seeing now is a maturing of the screen sector in New Zealand and some really exciting things in the future, despite some current headwinds.
Are those conversations easier when you've got, Tinā on this hit run?
Yeah, we love Tinā. I mean, what a success. And, it has had an incredible run in New Zealand. It's just popped up on premium VOD on Neon, so you can watch it there. But it's also opened in Australia to very strong audiences. It's going to do incredibly well there. And it's got a North America strategy underway. So, it's often really hard to get a film to work both locally and internationally. That is our aim. That's what we try to do. But Tinā is one that we think is going to do incredibly well beyond just New Zealand.
We have found that in the past, haven't we? These quintessentially Kiwi stories have just been so well received around the world.
Yeah, that's right. And that's the thing about New Zealand stories, is that they can resonate globally. And it's not about watering down or diluting our New Zealandness. It's about standing proud in it and telling those stories in a way that will resonate, that taps into the universality of human experience in the way that Tinā does, and other films like Whale Rider and, Boy and Hunt for the Wilder People did. So, it's really heartening to see Tinā sitting at number 6 New Zealand film of all time. Box office take. Incredible.
That's wonderful. We've talked a lot about the realities of the film sector currently, but Andy, what about the future? What will the sector potentially look like, and how is the NZFC planning for that?
Well, it's a really dynamic and fast evolving sector. Technology is, of course, both an enabler and a challenge, and no more so than with the current developments with AI. So we are monitoring those developments closely. We've just put out some AI principles to guide the industry in terms of the approach to AI.
How have they been received?
Really well, actually, because there's a real challenge with AI around copyright and ownership of ideas and chain of title, which of course with generative AI is a real challenge. But then there's the opportunity too in terms of productivity, so time and money can be saved with the appropriate use of AI technology. So our guidance is really around the ethical use of AI.
Well, on that point, talent development obviously features pretty prominently. You recently announced NZFC's International Placement Initiative.
Yeah, the international career development is something that we think will future-proof our industry, so that this is both placing mid-career creatives both in New Zealand businesses but also internationally. So Australia, UK and Ireland are on the list so far. We think it's really important that we are finding the talent and backing them. So our job is to find the next Jane, Taika, Jim, Richard, and back them to find their voice.
Very exciting.
We spend a lot on international engagement. We spend over $1 million a year actually in total, right across a whole range of things. So international career placement, hosting events and engagement with other markets, and on travel grants. So all of that support is 80% of that support goes directly to New Zealand filmmakers to engage with the international market.
While the Cannes film market was the final stop in this phase of NZFC's global trade mission, there is a second part to it. Chris Payne, NZFC Head of Co-Production and Incentives, travelling to Ireland and then on to an international animation film festival. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so that is in Annecy in France. So Annecy MIFA is the biggest international market for animation. I think there's something like 18,000 people there currently.
Wow.
Animation is increasingly important for New Zealand's market, and it's not just for kids. Animation also intersects with VFX and gaming and virtual production in a way that is really future focused and at the cutting edge of technology. New Zealand has been traditionally a very good service market for animation, and of course we've got world famous businesses in that space. But what we are looking to do with this global trade mission, and particularly with the presence at Annecy MIFA, where we're hosting a delegation of New Zealand animators, is to connect them with other animators from around the world for co-production purposes and to help them to build their own IP, so that it's not just about being a service industry for international production. It's actually about building local IP and generating revenue from that.
So how do you keep that momentum going on?
The crucial thing for us is to continue the engagement, to continue getting our producers and our filmmakers out there, working to find that next generation of talent and backing them and supporting them also out into the world. What we're looking at is funding the first couple of films, obviously funding the shorts and getting them through to feature film level, but funding the first couple of films and then pushing them out into the world and helping them to fly.
When you're over there representing them, do you feel a sense of pride in the role you've got and the industry we have here?
Absolutely. It's hard not to. I mean, New Zealand has an incredibly strong profile in the filmmaking world. It's thanks to those giants of our industry that we have that profile and that reputation. It's our job as the Commission to build on that and to find that next wave of incredible filmmakers to take out into the world.
Eni mihiana kia koe, thank you.
Kia koe anō, Mike. Kia ora.
And thank you for listening to Lights, Camera, Kōrero. We look forward to you joining us next time. I'm Mike McRoberts. Hei ko nā mai.